Hi viewers. Welcome to my podcast. I'm Dr. Varsha Paul. Today we have a very special guest. He started his journey from corporate to academics. Then, at the same time, he did his PhD from Pondicherry University. Apart from a teacher, he's also author. So I cordially invite Dr. Abhishek Kumar from Globsyn Business School, professor and principal. Sir, first, a hearty congratulations on your new role. So I
Thank you.
wanted to
Thank you,
ask,
Elizabeth.
welcome.
Thank
So
you
I
very
wanted,
much.
yes, I wanted to ask you, which is your happy place? Is it academics or research or corporate or leadership?
Each one of these roles are come with their own excitements and own challenges and opportunities.
Mhm.
Um, Broadly, I categorize them as two, which
Mhm.
is one to do with the world and another to do with the life of the mind. All right. So these two broad categories, and world, is more colorful, more exciting, more varied. So life of activity in the world is more exhilarating, exciting, challenging. Challenging, both are challenging. So uh, more varied. Whereas a life of the mind is far more abstract. It can be far more rewarding uh, because it stretches your mind, it stretches your being. So in my view, both have their own excitements. And since I have joined academia,
Mhm.
and where our job is, I mean, you are an academician, you know it as well as I do, that our job is to cultivate a life of the mind among students and among ourselves,
Yeah.
and not just limit our interventions to uh, giving them or enabling them to make a life, make a living. So I today at this stage in life, I find a life of the mind more exciting than a life of the world. I mean, that is how I see it.
Okay. Since you said about like human values, that's what I understand. Um, how was your actually the whole PhD journey? I think since you were working also in BIM, if I'm right, and doing your PhD also. So how did you balance both? Did you face challenges? How was it, the whole journey?
No, frankly, it was not such a challenge
Mm-hmm.
because a PhD is an academic work.
Yeah.
And since I was in academia, I was a professor. So that was also academics. And what I did was the area, the subjects that I was teaching, I took up a topic in PhD, which is similar to that I was teaching. So in fact, they complement rather than tearing me apart. That was a good thing.
Okay.
And frankly, my PhD experience was very, how do I say it? I think it was an initiation for me into the world of academics. Luckily, I had a wonderful supervisor. And of course, Pondicherry, the city itself is um,
Very
so deep
spiritual.
and spiritual and maybe striking in some sense.
Yeah.
So I think all of it came together to give me an experience that was transformational. So something like that is what I would say.
So you have developed a scale, right, during your PhD tenure, a scale for brand personality, if I'm right? Yeah.
Yes,
So
that's
what
right.
is it about?
So see, my PhD topic was creation of a scale to measure business media brand personality. All right. So we know brand personality as if a brand were to become a person, what kind of personality traits the brand would have. So while doing my PhD, I realized that the gap is for business media. So there are scales available for all kinds of product categories or brand categories. And there was nothing much for business media. So business media means, say, Economic Times, NDTV Profit, CNBC, Business Line newspaper, and so on. So I thought that is a research gap, and I must then fill the gap through a scale. So that is how I made this scale. The scale has 14 factors, and across 14 factors or dimensions, the business media brand is measured or studied and compared and so on. So as a part of my research, I compared Economic Times and Business Line, these two newspapers. That is how I did.
Okay. I wanted to always, I just had this in my mind. Suddenly, I see you in social media platforms with a lot of books, like being a book author. So, is an idea it just came from teaching or from research, or it was just your original thought?
See, there are two, three books I have written.
Yes,
All
very
right,
good.
but perhaps you are referring to the book of Newtons and Apples.
Yes, Newton's
Uh,
and Apple. That was I think that the title itself was so catchy, and I think it is published in Amazon.
it
Yeah.
it is, yes, yes, very much. No, it is not published by Amazon. It is published by Delhi-based popular publisher Blue One Ink. They are
Okay, I think
publishing
I
all
found
the.
it in Amazon then.
You must have found it on Amazon. Yes. So this book is insights into 50 great minds in human history. And this tries to unravel the source of genius of these 50 greats. So, why
Mm-hmm.
did they become what they became? So, that is the theme. And for each individual, each great personality, I have tried to study their life and isolate that part in their life which has made them, or which has perhaps made them great. And it could be the relationship with their parents, it could
Mm-hmm.
be some event in their life, some accident in their life, or it could just be the race they belong to or the soil they were born in. So things like that is what I have tried. And interesting thing was, it emerged out of a column in a newspaper. So I
Okay.
used to write a column in the
Okay.
Telegraph newspaper, and it was targeted at young adults.
Okay.
So out of 50, about 15, 18 articles or 15, 18 minds, grades are from that column.
Mm-hmm.
And then the rest I have written. So from the column also, all were not used. I mean, column ran for about 2 years and it was a fortnightly column. But I have used about 18, 19 of them, and the rest I have written afresh for this book. So that's how it has happened. It's for everyone, and it's easy to read because, as academicians, the kind of language we use,
Yes.
only academicians
To
can read
understand.
it. Nobody else can read it.
Yeah.
But this is for everyone. This is for young adults. It's written in a fluid, poetic prose, so
Yes.
that
Poetic.
everyone can learn. I mean, I'm saying that ideally readers should be saying it, but yeah, that's how I see it.
Did you have any upcoming books in the future, or probably have written something?
Um,
And
I'm working on, frankly, I'm working on something on critical thinking,
that's
a
it.
book on critical thinking, because I mean, of course, critical thinking word has become very popular these days, but does it mean design thinking? Does it mean um, thinking itself, or does it mean psychology? Does it mean philosophy? What really does it mean? So I thought if I can construct a work around this idea, because I do teach a program, a course on critical thinking. I have done several MDPs, etc., on thinking itself. In fact, I used to do a 3 months course on thinking, which was largely philosophical. So that's what I'm thinking. Maybe I have just started chapterization, etc., but that's a long way off. It will take maybe 5, 10 years. I don't know.
I just want to ask you. How have you evolved so far? So from, for example, probably you might have started teaching, I mean, from industry to teaching, then PhD, and then a lot of leadership roles. So how have you integrated all this personal, professional into all the activities together into teaching? So how have you evolved? Or do you see yourself as a big change in you? What do you think about it?
Currently I am in a management school,
Yes.
and uh, and most of the time I have been in a management school. My experience has also been in corporations. So, these are easier places because even though I am teaching, but I am teaching subjects which are related to management, which is more about doing or learning to do rather than learning to think or learning to visualize or learning to create. Uh, Whereas in between, I had a roughly 4 year stint at a design university. You may have seen Anant National University in
Yeah, yeah,
Ahmedabad.
yeah.
And that's where I entered an arena which was very different, which was about architecture, it was about design, it was about philosophy, and so on. So it was about creating objects of art. And I consciously chose that because over a period of time in corporation and academia, I had developed interest in philosophy.
Okay.
So when I say philosophy, it means aesthetics, it means ontology, it means epistemology, phenomenology, and so on. Particularly, I'm interested in continental philosophy, which is France, Germany, and so on. So I went there, and there I found it strikingly different from corporations and business schools, the students and the faculty members. So there they don't like when we as managers or as teachers of management, we are very textual.
Yeah.
All right. We write, we think, all right. Uh, we do not so much imagine
Yeah.
or fantasize or create. Whereas there, I saw that everyone is an artist, everyone is good at drawing or painting or creating handicrafts and so on. So they were very visual people, the
Okay.
students and the faculty. So I found that to be very exciting. And uh, I mean, I think that has given a new dimension to my way of thinking, even teaching, and so on. So that's how I think I have. I mean, if it can be called reinvention, reinvention.
Okay. What piece of advice would you give first to MBA students, and then obviously to PhD students, and then to early academicians like me? What piece of advice would you give? Like I categorize into three. Yes.
Yeah. Um, I see it as a continuum. So whether it is MBA student and then a PhD student and then an early academician or early someone who is starting or has just started academic career.
Mhm.
I think it's the same. I mean, it's not very different. As MBA students, we are learning or we must learn how to do and how thinking can be added to doing. All right. That is how I see MBA, primarily doing
Yeah.
and adding thinking to it.
Yeah.
Whereas in PhD and then in academia, it reverses. So it is thinking and add little doing to it.
Mhm.
And in my view, if you can choose a topic
Mhm.
which has as little doing as possible, the better it is.
Mhm.
All right. Those of us who are from this field, management particularly,
Mhm.
we have this temptation to do things or to see how my work can improve efficiency, effectiveness, and so on. Ultimately, it is about doing only.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
I think as academicians and as PhD students, we must resist that temptation. And our focus should be on creation of knowledge and new perspectives, new insights, and so on. We should not get into doing so much because moment you get into doing, of course, you will get your PhD, etc., but you will not really create new knowledge in the real sense. So I feel that as far as possible, we should move into or remain into thinking rather than doing in PhD and in academia.
Since you said you have a strong interest in philosophy and obviously being an author, which is your favorite book that has just transformed your life or something like that? To,
Oh, there are several.
I know this
Maybe
would be
I
like,
can give
yeah,
maybe one or two from several disciplines.
okay, please.
So say from literature, English literature. Um, One novel by Thomas Hardy, Jude the Obscure. All right, so that is one. I'm talking of literature, English literature. Then also D.H. Lawrence. D.H. Lawrence has an author. I mean, all his books, particularly Sons and Lovers and Lady Chatterley's. So these two, and particularly from the perspective of language, how he uses language. Another person from literature that inspired me was Bernard Shaw. All his plays, almost all his plays of Bernard Shaw. Bernard Shaw, of course, is not just an author, he's also a philosopher. So that is in literature. In philosophy, there are many again, but to name a few, Martin Heidegger. All right. And his work, there are several, but one is Being and Time, which is a famous, his magnum opus, Being and Time. But he also has a few, not a few, several essays, which are kind of discipline redefining essays. So, for example, he has an essay called Building Dwelling Thinking. All right. And this building dwelling thinking has redefined the discipline of architecture. Whereas there is an essay called The Question Concerning Technology. So that has thrown new light into the essence of technology itself. So Martin Heidegger is one. Uh, then works of Michel Foucault. Michel Foucault is a French philosopher, and his works like Discipline and Punish, or works like Archaeology of Knowledge. All right. So these are I mean, I can name many, but these two immediately, and these are not very old, these are recent philosophers. Among the older ones, Immanuel Kant, I think, would be high up there. Um, and then one I would like to mention is architecture because I teach architecture. Recently, I have taught philosophy of architecture at IIT Kanpur, and it would be available at on NPTEL also, NPTEL Swayam. So in architecture, I would like to mention two authors. One is his name is um, and he's an Indian. I mean, I'm giving Indian author Christopher Beringer. He's a living architect and he has written a book called Letters to a Young Architect. So it's a beautiful introduction to the discipline of architecture. All right. And then one more, which is at the intersection of architecture and philosophy. It is not really a book, it's a personality, philosopher Ludwig Wittgenstein. So he has a book called Tractatus Logico-Philosophicus. So he was an architect, he was also a philosopher, he was also an engineer. So yes, so these are some of the works that inspire me.
Yeah, since you said that you got a different paradigm shift like towards technology, you said in one of your book that you read. Do you think that these days we have this AI technology and there are teachers and so many articles also coming up with the AI technology that's their negative impacts? Um, what is your take on it? After reading the book, you got a different dimension also. So what exactly uh, comes in your mind?
The problem with technology is it overwhelms all other forms of expression. Um, it is so overwhelming, it is so overpowering that it makes everything as a
Yeah.
means to an end we don't know. So
Yeah.
we just everything gets reduced as means to something. All right. And and if life has to be led as means to an end, everything is means to an end, then I think that life will be a very poor life, an impoverished life. That there must be variety and color and multiplicity and diversity in life. And I think technology prevents that. Okay, it reduces everything into means and end, instrumentality, mechanical way of living life, a unidimensional way of living life. So I see that as the challenge with technology. And it's an overwhelming challenge. I mean, there is no escaping. It will require a Herculean effort to escape that.
So one last question. What are the actual current trends that you see in teaching and has been changing for the past few years?
Current trend. Did you ask current trends?
Yeah, yeah, I asked what are the current trends that you see in teaching?
Um, See, including NEP, everywhere there is a talk of interdisciplinarity. All right. But teaching any subject with interdisciplinarity is very difficult. All right. Because it requires multiple interests within the teacher.
Yeah,
So, no matter which subject you are teaching, are you able to work at the intersection of several disciplines? Uh, and intersection with your subject and with other disciplines. So, and that I see is not happening. In fact, what most of us are doing is going deeper and deeper into our own discipline and using data and more data. So, research has become empirical and only empirical. All right. And I think that is converting the whole teaching and research profession into uh, very against unidimensional or very uh, uh, empirical way of doing things. And that I see is not helping. I mean, it has reduced all the talk of interdisciplinarity to a mere talk. It is not happening in reality. Okay, even if it is happening, it's happening at a very superficial level. So that's what I am seeing, and that I think is um, making teaching. I mean, the classroom experience for students and even for teachers as less than optimal. It is no longer an exciting place to be because teachers are more interested in research rather than teaching. So yeah, that's what I am seeing as a almost a disturbing trend.
okay. Um,
With the help of or with the benefit of hindsight, I can uh, suggest to the PhD um, scholars and early academicians, um, think different. Okay, and think different does not mean that um, you have to find a new research gap within your own discipline. All right, life is much wider concept, and it is important to look at the other realities other than the realities of your discipline.
mhm,
So in a management, psychology and sociology is talked about but not followed.
yeah,
All right. It is largely we are into mathematics and statistics and and technology and data collection, but things that are irrational or not seemingly rational. All right. So, for example, interests. What am I interested in? Or what people are interested in? And why we are interested in what we are interested in may not have any obvious reason. So, I think as researchers, as academicians, scholars, we must pay sufficient attention to that and make space for irrationalities in our thesis. So that's what I would like to say.
So thank you so much, sir, for giving us actually the time and insights. I think you have covered a lot of topics, just not research. You spoke about philosophy, you spoke about teaching, and so once again, thank you so much, sir. And I wish you all the best because for your upcoming the new role that you have taken. And thank you so much, sir. Please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
I do that. Thank you, Elizabeth. Pleasure talking to you.
Don't worry, be happy.